So it's Sunday night and I'm talking with Sam. And if you want to introduce yourself, Sam, and tell us what your business is and what it does.
Yeah, so my name's Sam and I own Pukka Tukka for Pets Limited, which specialises in raw food for cats and dogs.
Okay, Sam, how long have you been doing that for?
So I brought the company in April 2019, so nearly 2 years now. We've been through a lockdown, we've survived, we've come out the other end, and we're currently going through another. So it's had its challenges.
Okay. So what were you doing before you bought the business?
So I was a police officer for nearly 19 years, so a completely different challenge buying this company, but one that I don't regret at all.
So you're a police officer, and that's in Guernsey, where we live at the moment.
So I was the dog handler for the police. So I spent 12 years handling a general purpose police dog and also drugs dogs as well.
Sorry, how long did you say you were a police officer for?
For 19 years in total, and for
19
12
years.
years, yeah, 12 years of that was on the dog section.
Wow. So obviously
Yeah.
there's a link there between being a dog handler and selling dog food. Is that a real link, or am I just putting two and two together?
I had my second police German Shepherd had very bad allergies, to the point that she was in the vets back and forth with ear infections, skin issues and everything else. And it got to the point where she was then scared of the vets, which isn't a nice thing to see your animals go through. So there was something else that I should have been doing for her. So researched food and actually found it quite interesting, because when you start looking at dog food, I mean, there's so many on the market at the moment, and I'm not saying that raw fixes everything for everybody.
Yeah.
However, I knew of Kathy and Graham Glass, who used to run Pukka Tukka, and went down and saw them and just explained to them the issues. And he gave me a month's free trial for the food, and that dog never looked back. Her ear infections went, her skin was amazing, and even the black in her fur came back as well. And it was just, it was a real turning moment for actually, what are we feeding our dogs?
Yeah, we'll expand on that in a minute, but just a bit more about the business first. But with your you taking it over, did you take over an established customer base?
Yeah, so Kathy and Graham had been running it for about 7 years before they then sold the company to me. So I took on a client base. I took the name of the company because it was already recognised. So I decided to keep all of that because it was something that people knew and believed in. And so I've run with that, and over the last 2 years, I've more than doubled my customer base.
Wow, that's good. Good work.
Yeah, well, it's been hard work, and it's been a challenge. Every day is a learning day, but I've enjoyed absolutely every single moment of it.
That's good. What sort of range do you do?
So I specialise in raw.
Yeah.
And basically, there's a couple of companies that I work with. So I currently supply 2 brands. One of them is the Nutriment, which is a complete feed for dogs.
Yeah.
So it comes frozen. Basically, it's all complete, so you don't have to worry about adding anything in. So if you're looking for a raw diet for your dogs, but you don't know where to start, then I would always recommend that somebody starts with a complete diet, and then if they wish to move into doing it themselves, they can go from there.
My partner has bought food off of you for our dog. We've got a Staffordshire Bull Terrier, and this is what I said we'd expand on after, because bull breeds can be quite susceptible to allergies and poor skin conditions. Yeah. But I was just wondering, like the dogs that you see, is it more for, because there is a like a trend at the moment for raw dog food? Is it more for health reasons, or I don't know, is it something that people are trying just because it is a trend?
So do you know when kibble, dry food for dogs, was first invented?
No, I don't.
So if I said to you 1956 was the first bag of dry dog food,
okay,
and that raw feeding has actually been in existence since day dot, it kind of puts a perspective on it's not a trend. I think it's just becoming, people are more aware of what they're feeding themselves. We all know that chocolate crisps and sweets and everything are bad for us. We're looking at, organic things. We're looking at, should we be eating, as much wheat, gluten. I just think that people are very much more aware. And like you've mentioned, there's dogs now with severe allergies. Now, I can't tell you why we're seeing more of it, but we definitely are. Cockapoos, they're another one, they've got lots of skin issues. The poo breeds, it just seems that they have issues with being fussy eaters as well.
Yeah.
So I don't think it's a trend. I just think that people are just becoming more aware that actually it's not as difficult as people think it might be, because if you log onto the internet and type into Google raw feeding, it can be an absolute minefield and you don't know where to start.
No, that's right. I mean, years ago, it's the old standing joke that you'd see lots of white dog poos around, because obviously they'd have more calcium in their diet from eating more bones, I
Absolutely,
suppose,
yeah.
and things like that.
Well, and fit as a butcher's dog, that saying is actually, because that's what used to happen. Dogs were fed bones, scraps from the table. You asked your grandparents what they fed their dogs if they had them, and they will probably tell you that it was scraps from the table. It's raw is feeding a species appropriate diet, basically. Dogs aren't or weren't invented to be eating grains and kibbles.
No. So when you took over, you say you managed to double your customer base. How did you manage that? Did you do anything? Did you change anything?
So basically, I decided that to get me out there, I needed to attend lots of local events. So the Seafront Sundays, the markets that are going on in the old market building, just to get me out and about, because sometimes people don't know that you actually exist until you get out there. You start meeting people, so I offer, treats of various different types, whether that be raw, whether that be dried, everything. So everything I supply in my shop is 100% natural. It's additive and preservative free, and that's kind of the motto that I've got for Pukka Tukka at the moment, that it's all just natural.
Okay. So you say in your shop, where is your shop?
So at the moment, I call it a shop, but it's not really a shop. It's a collection service from the garage. So I'm running 13 chest freezers at the moment. However, there is some very exciting news to come for Pukka Tukka customers in the very near future. COVID and this lockdown has put a bit of a spoiler on that, because it's not going to be happening now for another couple of weeks. But yeah, there is big news to come.
Oh, that sounds interesting.
Yes, it's going to be.
Yeah, I mean, property over here for premises are difficult to find. So obviously, I'm assuming you've managed to find something, but fair play to you. And like you say, advertising, it's difficult to advertise effectively in Guernsey because it's the same as anywhere else. But you've got quite a small customer base here because, like yourself, you're supplying something physical, and when it's not like an online service and you're servicing the people that are local, you or living locally to your area, which is Guernsey, then it's difficult to know which is the best method of advertising. Sometimes if you're not creative thinking enough, it could cost you a fortune to go through the different traditional media.
See, this is the problem I had. So from leaving the police force, I knew one computer system. That's all I'd used all my life. If a problem came up, I would phone somebody and they would fix it. However, I've had to log on to different things, create a website, which is under construction at the moment. It's going out an overhaul. So yeah, it's been an absolute learning curve for me. But Facebook, Instagram, they are your best friends when you've got a small business and you want to get your name out there. And people don't realize a simple like or share on your posts that you put up from your friends, it can reach so many more people. So I'm just using Facebook to my advantage at the moment.
That's good. My partner who has bought food from you, she told me that you've actually developed your own recipe, or you're working with a supplier that's developed your own brand.
Yeah, so basically lots of people take their dogs on holiday with them now, so they'll go off to the south of France or to the UK for 2 weeks. Raw food is frozen, and once you defrost it, you've only got 3 days to use that up. So people were not wanting to obviously take, which is understandable, because you don't want to be logging a freezer around with you for 2 weeks holiday. So people were going to the shop and buying, a well-known brand of kibble, were coming back and saying that their dogs, had been unwell on it. there was a gap in the market, so I couldn't offer them anything at that point. So I had to do something. So found a company in the UK that you can work with and say, right, I want to provide this, and I want to be using the highest quality ingredients I can. I want to be able to source it back to where it's come from, and I want a label which tells everybody exactly what's in those products. So worked with them for many months, and so we came up with the superfood, which has got 65% meat content.
Okay.
It's got no additives, no preservatives, there's no fillers in there at all, and there's 5 superfood veg in that kibble.
Being in Guernsey, is there any way you can add something into the recipe that makes it unique to Guernsey, that could be sort of marketed beyond just Guernsey, that people think, oh, well, that might be nice for my dog?
So at the moment, I'm doing a little bit of research into seaweed and how, because obviously
that's
we've
exactly
got
what I was just going to say, the old kelp or wrap.
So we've got Guernsey seaweed, which I love chatting to those guys. I sprinkle their seaweed stuff on everything and in everything. And I think it's very underrated at the moment, and it seems to be one of those things that people haven't considered in the past, but it's on its way up, I think. So possibly it's something that I could look into and expand further.
Well, that's one of the things that I suppose we've got an abundance of, because we don't really have a lot of land, but we do have a lot of sea. And
absolutely. I mean, the goal for me would be to have my own factory where I could actually produce my own raw food as well. But as you know, the rents on properties over here, the logistics of getting things over here, the shipping is just incredible price wise, so who knows, maybe in the future. But
well, people keep saying COVID is the great reset, and rethink maybe property prices and things might change beyond that, because there isn't
possibly
there isn't quite the same demand for, maybe, I don't know, commercial properties when things can't travel as easily and as cost effectively. Whereas
and the thing that I found, I mean, there was a time when I was looking for a property to rent, and I went and saw some places, and you just think, for what they were charging for rent, then by the time you've added everything on top as well, actually, for a small business that actually wants to grow, it's completely unachievable sometimes.
Are you willing to divulge some of the rents that you've seen? You don't have to say which properties or where they were, but it's in Guernsey, and how much the sort of price is, because people from the UK or from wherever might be listening to this, where in the UK you've got things like the London living wage, but the thing with the London living wage is you can work in London, but you can commute to London from a cheaper living area. Whereas in Guernsey, everything is Guernsey property prices, and because we've got a pretty big industry here which revolves around finance, so it has made the price of properties quite expensive, and it is out of reach for certain people to be able to achieve. But so could you expand on the prices that you've seen for certain properties, and not necessarily where the properties were or the names or anything, but what kind of properties they were?
So looking at properties, I had a budget in mind which I thought was achievable, and was probably realistic, and very quickly realised actually what I could afford and what people were asking was completely unrealistic and unachievable for me at this time. So I went and viewed a few properties. One was in quite poor condition, the roof was leaking, and they were asking, and I believe it was 800 square meters, and they were asking for £1,500 per month. But that was with no fixing of the roof. If you wanted to do it, you had to do all the work yourself. Then you had to pay all of your services on top, obviously. You then had to pay your rates on top. So actually, by the time you've looked at it, you're looking at a good £2,000 that you've got to earn and clear before you can even think about paying yourself a wage or ordering an extra stock.
This is the challenges we face.
Yeah, and then on the flip side, you've got the bigger properties which you think, the dream could be, but they're looking for £46,000 plus per year. When you look at raw stores in the UK, there's some of them which I follow, and when you want to aspire to be like somebody,
Yeah,
and you've seen somebody's business model and you think that's what I want to be. I mean, she's just built a walk-in freezer in a massive warehouse, which is,
yeah,
perfect for supplying raw, because you need a lot of freezer space, but there just isn't. It's a real shame because so many properties are sitting empty at the moment. You just think if these landlords just gave a little bit back sometimes and said, "Do you know what, give it a go," so that
yeah.
somebody is paying some rent, even if it's half of what they're asking, just to get them off, off the ground and get running. But it just doesn't seem to work like that.
No, that's it. I mean, a lot of the properties here and a lot of the landlords are holding out for those big industries like the old LVCR business, low value consignment relief, where you had companies like, I think it was Play.com over here selling CDs, and if it was on selling back to the UK for under £18, then there was no VAT on it. So there was a whole industry here based on that, and properties, and those properties have remained empty for the last however many years it's been, 5 7 years, something like that, while they wait. But they're happy to see them empty. They could be generating an income. I mean, even if it's covering costs, it's better than have them empty for so many years.
Well, and that's the thing, and yourself, like places that are left empty get damp, they fall into disrepair. Why can't a chance be given to these people that want to better themselves and pay a nominal rate? But it just doesn't. I don't want to say that they're greedy, because I understand, I get it. I get that they're, wanting a certain amount for it, and that somebody will come along and take that property from them. But, sign a year lease, give somebody a chance, there's so many new companies that are being set up, due to the last lockdown. I had thought about perhaps clubbing together with a few of those people and saying, right, if we rented a bigger property,
Yeah,
we'll split it down into sections almost. So based on, what the strawberry farm was, when you walked in, you could buy from different people,
yeah,
get something like that. But then it's like, if one person then decides after 6 months it's not working for them, who then picks up their space rent? And it seems like a bigger headache to try and organize something like that. But I'm not saying I'm not going to try in the future to do something like that, but if somebody could set something like that up, then I'd be there supporting them all the way, because honestly I think we all have to be in this together.
yeah. Well, that's the thing that the states need to remember is that in our elections in 2016, everyone said we need to diversify the economy, and all that's really meant is from just going from finance, we've now got green finance as well. There's not a lot else that's been done, and the same
No.
now.
And
There's
the thing is as well is, in the UK, new businesses, you can get a startup grant. They will help towards, even if it's something like simple, a freezer, just to start your own premises up.
yeah,
You can apply for grants like that in the UK, whereas we have nothing over here that we can apply for. So most people setting up new companies are doing it with their own money, and
mhm,
they're investing a lot into that company. So why can't other people then take the time to invest in them? We're serious business people. We're not
that's
doing
it.
it just on a whim. I left a career which was going to provide me with a pension. It was a stable wage every month. I knew what my wage was, and I left there to the unknown.
Yeah.
And you've got to make it work. And these people that are setting up these businesses, they do want to make them work. So yeah, I don't know
Well,
what the answer is.
I campaigned for space for light industrial yards, and we eventually got that. Our government owns quite a few different properties here that are redundant, basically doing nothing. And light industrial yards is quite an easy one to sort of enable. It's literally just level it out and put some Harris fencing up, divide it up, and then let us take a space each. But I do think that we could be building other spaces like warehouses and workshops and commissaries, which the United States have, which is basically kitchens that can be rented out. So if someone's got a catering business, they can rent time spaces in these kitchens to go in, they do their bits and pieces, they go out, the next person comes in, they do, and like that. And it's going to take thinking like that, creative out of the box thinking. Um, I know our states likes to say that they don't want to interfere with the private sector and all that, but or the private market, but They need to, because it's restrictive. Like you say, your rent for the place that you looked at was £18,000 a year for a small business, a small startup. And if a small startup in the UK was looking at £18,000 a year before any other costs, it's a non-starter, you know.
Yeah, and this is the thing. You know, and I just thought to myself then, no, we'll just carry on as we are. But it's getting to the point now that I can't move until I grow, but I can't grow until I move. So I'm in a proper catch-22.
Yeah,
But I've now managed to find, you know, a property. The landlord has been absolutely amazing, and quite a few smaller businesses have taken property from him in the last couple of months, and completely approachable. I'd almost gone from speaking to all of these people that I just thought, really,
yeah.
you know, there's no help, there was no listening. It was just no, you were shot down straight away, to speaking to him, and it was like, yeah, we can do that for you, yeah, we can do this, you know, and yes, we can discuss the rent. I was honest. I said, look, this is the bottom line, this is what I can afford. Do you think it's doable? And he was like, well, we would be asking this for it, but I will see what I can do. And yeah, honestly, I can't fault how he's been, and as a landlord, you know, I'm going to be thankful to have him with having my back, basically.
Yeah, okay. So before, when you said you're a police officer and you had the dog, I suppose I hadn't really thought about it before, but you said that it's almost was the dog your responsibility basically?
Yeah,
The-
so they used to come home, they lived at home with us, so they were all integrated into family life. I've got two small children and my
Yeah.
partner, and they were always part of our family, but they had a job to do.
And is that the same in elsewhere in the world? Do the police dogs live with?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
Yeah.
there's obviously a few places in the world who can't take their dogs home for whatever reason. However, they have, you know, boarding or kenneling facilities.
Yeah.
But yeah, the majority of the UK and Guernsey and Jersey, we take our dogs home with us.
Yeah. Not that Guernsey's a sort of high crime rate area, but it must have been nice to have that extra security at home.
Um, yeah, however, she was as quiet as a mouse when she was in the garden. You know, put her in the police van and she knew. You know, she always used to make me laugh because as soon as the blue lights went on and the sirens, that was it. You know,
Yeah.
you could hear her dancing around in the back, regardless of what we were going to. She thought, yep, you know, come on, we're going to a job, mum. But yeah, it's such a rewarding job to do. Honestly, I worked the drugs dogs, and job satisfaction, it was 100%. You know, I loved working those dogs, really did.
What was the name of the dog that you had?
So I had Asti was my first ever police dog.
Yeah,
I then had Leddy.
Teddy.
I
Friends with
had
Lady.
um Ike. Ike
Ike.
had a crazy Ike, yeah, he had a crazy mohawk, so he got a lot of street cred. Everyone loved his mohawk. I then had a dog called Duke, and then my last one was called Bryn.
Okay. So just for the sort of excitement factor, did any of those dogs see much action here?
um the drugs dogs are used constantly. That's, you know, that's who gets out the van most, is your drugs dog. The shepherds, like you say, the crime rate over here isn't that high. I mean, when I first joined the job 19 years ago,
Yeah,
we were dealing with vehicles being taken every weekend, properties being broken into. It was always go. However, I think over the last couple of years, car security has got much better.
right.
So cars aren't as easily stolen anymore, unless they've got the keys, obviously. But to be honest with you, the crime rate here is so low. We're so lucky,
We are.
and I think sometimes we're a bit too shouted here. You know, in respect of, we can just leave our front door unlocked and not even think about it. Pop to the shop, and I mean, I've gone out a few times and left my blinking keys in the front door, thinking I'd locked them and taken them off, and everything's still where it should be. You know, so I do think we're really lucky here.
Okay, so you expanded your customer base, and a lot of people come to you because their dogs have got allergies. Do you get a lot of feedback from owners taking the
Yeah,
food
no,
from?
absolutely. And I make sure that I make contact with those customers as well after a few days to make sure that everything's going well. There's been a few dogs that have come to me. So one dog came to me last year. The lady was just beside herself. She had tried all of the diets you could think of, and she said, look, she said, I was chatting to a friend today. She said, go and see Sam. So she popped down. I gave her some chicken and some turkey for her dog and said, look, we'll start here and then we'll go on. And her dog, within 3 weeks, the improvements in that dog was massive. I mean, the dog had no fur when she first came to me because she was chewing herself to pieces. Her skin was red raw. And within 3 weeks, the owner sent me a picture saying I could actually cry with joy because she is growing her hair back. She's now playful again. We've got our naughty puppy back. And that's lovely. When you hear success stories, it's just, you know, the job satisfaction you get from that is just from helping that dog to self-mutilating itself to being comfortable. It's just incredible, you know. And I'm not saying that everyone should run and stick their dogs on raw. I know it's not for everybody. However, there is a lot to be taken from some of these success stories.
Because some people make the mistake of trying to feed the dog, like at the end of the Chinese, they see the spare rib bones, and they think, oh, the dog will enjoy that, and they'll give the dog cooked pork bones or cooked lamb bones or chicken bones, but they splinter, don't they?
So cooked bones are an absolute no-go for dogs. You know, when you cook food, you change the makeup of it, you change the proteins, you change the way the bones react. Now, yes, I sell raw bones here, lots of them. Chicken necks, chicken carcasses, chicken wings, you know, they're all great for the dogs. They help keep their teeth clean. They're good for digestion. I mean, it's a gross subject, but we talk a lot about poo in the shop because that's the
so does my 4-year-old.
But that is the one massive difference that people notice first. I mean, you could have a dog that's gone from, you know, going 4, 5, 6 times a day. You've driven past those people that are trying to pick up a sloppy poo off the pavement and thought, oh God, you know. And I drive past those people and desperately want to shout, come and get some raw from me, you know. I mean, I had one lady in here that she was taking baby wipes out with her to clean up after her dog. 2 days later, she messaged me and was like, I can't believe it. I can actually pick up after my dog and not be embarrassed. You know, so it's the small changes like that, which, you know, yes, you've got to giggle at sometimes because you're like, yeah, I told you. You know, but it is nice when they come back and it's just like, actually, it's made a massive difference. Massive difference. We've got a Jack Russell and a Spaniel at home. Now, before I had the police dog with the ear issues, they were fed kibble because I didn't know anything else. Oh, Jack Russell used to pick 2 or 3 biscuits out the bowl, was just depressed and not interested in food at all. We switched it over to raw along with the Spaniel, and they both now do a happy dance every single time the fridge is opened. You know, it gets to the point where you're just like, really, girls, I'm just getting a drink, you know, calm down, it's not dinner time. But no, it's lovely. And then you get sent videos of going, look, my dog's doing a happy dance for its food. And it's brilliant. It's absolutely brilliant. I love it. Absolutely love it.
So the whole reason that I'm doing this podcast is to try and just remind people that small businesses exist, and we've got our own separate challenges to other businesses. And right now, a lot of us aren't trading at all. But if you had sort of any say in what the states do, what would you do to try and make your business better?
I think we've touched on it quite a lot. It's just the rent on properties, you know, just to get the landlords just to think perhaps a little bit more about the smaller businesses that want to start up, you know. And then also all of the estates buildings that are empty as well, you know, what about renting those out, you know, because there's lots of them, lots and lots of them. I know that there isn't a bottomless pit of money that they can give out to people, but how about an incentive to start up your business? Because at the end of the day, if my business grows, I might be in a position where I can employ a member of staff, so I'm going to be paying into the states in one way or the other. So why can't we have a little bit of help just to get there?
So during because we've been locked down again, and if this is the first time anyone's listening to this is the first podcast in Guernsey. We've been COVID free since about May, and we've suddenly gone back into lockdown a week ago because we had a few cases, a cluster out of the blue from nowhere where they can't trace back from travel. Now, lots of us are sort of sat at home doing nothing. I'm trying to use my time productively doing this. Are you using your time? Are you trying to use your time productively towards your business? Have you got, you doing anything that you maybe hadn't considered before? Or?
So obviously I was running the business the last time we locked down, so that was, a new challenge. But we literally, put a plan in action where people now place an order ahead of a collection date.
Yeah,
Everything's boxed up for them to collect, so we can all be contact free. Deliveries, obviously I do deliveries. I'm doing over 100 deliveries a week at the moment. So as of 12 o'clock last Saturday, my phone has not stopped, and I'm talking even into 11, 12 o'clock at night, customers worried, because they can't get down here, or, lots of people have now been put into isolation again after this dance festival results. So lots of my customers have texted gone, no, I can't come down, can you deliver? Absolutely, of course I can. So you just have to be quite fluid in how you can adapt, really, I think. And but
so
people appreciate that you can adapt so quickly, and because we've got space to be able to leave things out for people, people are much happier being able to come down and pick something up and not have any contact with people, or on going on to the delivery service. It's
yeah,
there, they don't have to worry about that then.
have your sales gone up or down or been static then since
So
lockdown last week?
so the weirdest thing that happens during the lockdown last time was the amount of customers I took on. So I took on probably 30 new customers last lockdown.
Right.
Now we're a week into it, and already this week I've taken on 10 new customers, whereas normally I take on average 2 to 3 new customers per week. So already it's increased. Now I always like to ask people how they've come to contact me,
Yeah.
and the majority of it is actually word of mouth and friends' recommendations.
Yeah.
So what I think actually happens in lockdown is people reconnect, they start talking to each other again, and if the dog's running around on their feet, then that comes up. So for me, it's been, I know that lots of people don't and can't trade at the moment, so I don't
Yeah.
want to, rub
I'm
it
one of
in
them.
too
I
much.
can't
But
trade at the moment. I've got no
I
income.
know, and honestly, it's a weird situation to be in when your business is doing well during a lockdown.
Yeah.
And honestly, I feel a little bit guilty because lots of people are sat at home, wondering how they're going to get through, how long is this going to last, how am I going to pay my staff?
Yeah.
So I feel incredibly lucky to be able to still trade.
Okay. After the first lockdown last year, did you maintain those customers or did any of them sort of revert back to whatever they were doing before?
No, so once customers have gotten their dog on raw, the majority, I would say that actually 96% have actually stayed with me.
Okay.
Some dogs are quite fussy, they can go off of raw food, or they just don't like it. It's not for every dog, I know it's not. But the majority of those customers have stayed, and lots of them become friends very quickly.
Yeah.
So yeah, I've absolutely loved the last 2 years, I really have.
Well, it's good that it's actually good for someone's business during this period. Have you got any plans for the future at all to adapt or diversify?
I've got a few things up my sleeve. I don't want to
You
give
did
everything
say
away.
before regarding a premises, I think. Yeah, you
Yes.
didn't expand on it.
No, so I haven't announced anything officially yet, but there is lots and lots going on in the background, with new suppliers, new stockists, to maybe moving into a premises in the very near future.
Okay.
Um, it's been a challenge, especially during a global pandemic, trying to secure new suppliers. Brexit has been an absolute nightmare for postage. They're
Mhm.
classing as international, some of the companies. So having to explain to those companies, no, we're not international. We are literally a boat journey across. It's been quite a challenge, but most suppliers have been really understanding and actually, no, we can make this work.
With the farmers over here, a lot of the male cows, they can't be used for human consumption. Basically, could they be used for dog food? As morbid as that sounds,
So they have doing raw has got to be, you've got to be a bit scientific in the fact that you can't just mince a cow and feed it to your dog. That's when raw goes terribly wrong. um You know, people can't just go to the shop, buy mincemeat off the counter and just feed it to their dog thinking that that's
No.
feeding a raw diet. It's not at all. Like I said, you know, if I had the opportunity to set up a manufacturing plant of my own raw food, then I would jump at the chance to use the local produce. You know, like the fishing at the moment, you know, there would be so much fish that you could use. You know, there's lots of different things locally that you could use. We've got growers, we've got a good supply of growers, you know, so it would be a very exciting thing, but I just don't think.
I can understand that buying mince off of the shelf in the shop might not be a proper raw diet, but could livestock here that isn't going to be used for human consumption, could it be used to be part of the ingredients of an animal food?
Yeah, no, absolutely, of course it could. You know, if I had the opportunity to set up my own brand and my own factory to make it, then yes, you know, it would massively be a consideration. The dairy farm wastage, it is what it is. It's in
Well,
raw
just
feeding, everything gets used, so it would be a very good source of protein for a raw business. It really would.
yeah, I don't think we produce enough here to actually create a sort of national or international business, but at least for supplying local, maybe even Channel Island pets.
Yeah, I mean, there is one company locally. Two girls have set up a company where they're drying out the beef. So they're called Bushan Tushan. I think I've pronounced that correctly. And they sell dried dog treats, and they are
Right,
sourcing
okay.
all of their meat from the slaughterhouse directly. So there is literally 0 air miles to that as well.
Yeah, I'd never heard of them.
Yeah, so they're on Facebook. I believe that they run a dog walking company between them, and yeah, so that's a new Guernsey company which was started, funnily enough, as a result of the lockdown last year.
Maybe they might want to come on chat here. Just going on that about chatting on here. You were quite reluctant to chat to start with.
I just get so nervous, I really do. I'm like, oh no, I don't want to come across as, you know, especially in the lockdown, talking about my business that's doing really well and it's flying, and you're sat there not able to go to work. I was just like, oh no, I can't. But I'm glad
Okay,
I have.
well,
I'm glad
if any other fellow small businesses are listening, would you recommend them coming on here just to have a chat?
Yeah, absolutely. And we all love chatting about our businesses at the end of the day. You know, I could bore you with raw for hours, to the point where you're just like, oh God, Sam, shut up. But when it's something that you're passionate about, then, you know, yeah, get on here, have a chat.
All right, Sam, thank you. I appreciate your time. It is late. Hopefully, I can get this out as soon as possible. All right. I appreciate you coming on.
Lovely.
All right,
Thank you
thank
very
you.
much for inviting me on. All right then,
Speak to you
take
later.
care.
Bye bye. Cheers. Bye bye.